All right. Yeah, let's get into the topics for tonight. And these are both kind of topics that that you brought up. So why don't I let you take the lead, as it were?
All right. Well, let's start. Well, since since we're talking about sports, I'll start in with our sort of some happenings in the World Series. Not necessarily on the field, because the games have been pretty amazing, to be honest.
Okay.
But it's more behind the scenes stuff that's going on. That kind of the idea, politics getting involved in sports when they don't really need to be there. You have there was an incident with the Houston Astros, who made it to they're the American League team that made the World Series, and one of their executives, I don't remember I forget his name and his title, but after they won the World Series, this executive, from what I heard, is that he was saying, like, I'm so glad that we got, fucking Ozuna, or, something along those lines. And Ozuna is the closer that they got in a trade last year from the Toronto Blue Jays. Because one thing that the Houston Astros needed is they didn't really have a lot of good late inning relief pitching.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy helped them, and it was part of the reason why they didn't make the World Series last year, is because they didn't really have good relief pitching, and they didn't have Ozuna last year, even though they traded for him, because he had been on. I guess there was some domestic violence dispute that was going on with him, and the details on that are a little fuzzy. But from what it sounds like, is that it wasn't really anything significant. Like, I don't think he beat his wife or anything. It was just kind of I forgot what exactly happened. And so baseball, I think in the court and legally, like, nothing really happened. Like, I think he was acquitted or whatever. But baseball, it doesn't matter. Like, they think they threw like a 75 game suspension on him, because he was just involved in it. So they
right. So like the optics outweighed the actual legal standing or the legal
exactly.
decision.
And that's happened on a lot of occasions. There was the same thing with Aroldis Chapman a number of years ago, and that was the reason why the Dodgers didn't get him, is because, we don't want to be involved with that. It's like, come on, yes, they arrested him, but it turned out that there was nothing happened. That was what legally came up, and because it's the optics, so the Dodgers kind of looked woke, but in reality it's like nothing happened, so you lost out on arguably the greatest late inning relief pitcher because of that. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened with Ozuna. And apparently, it was two female reporters that were there that felt that this executive was looking like, I mean, the way that you can tell this is probably written by a woman, where it's like, he looked right into her eyes, and it was very, very direct and very, it's kind of.
Wait, was the reporter interviewing this executive?
No, he was just excited because because Ozuna was part of the reason why they won that game against the Yankees, because he kept them in the ball game late for them to hit this walk-off home run to make it to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And of the guys, because I think he was part of that. He was part of the team that got that, was able to get this guy in a trade. And so he's pumped up. It's like, I'm so glad we got Ozuna. And at least that's how I see it as. But apparently these female reporters heard that, and it's like, you obviously don't care about domestic violence. And there was all this, oh my God, you should have like seen on Twitter, just and the reason why I call it bullshit, because, we've talked about this several occasions. I hate when like you only hear one side of the story, and you don't hear any like, it's kind of this kangaroo court on Twitter that it's like you only hear one side and you don't hear like the actual like what actually happened, because this seems like you're only hearing this one side. We don't hear anything else, and then it's like, oh well, now he's fired. It's like, what? And it's like, so that's where I start to call bullshit, possibly, like where it's maybe he was saying it to them, he obviously said that. There's no dispute on that, but was it actually said at these female reporters, or was the guy just excited that his team made it to the World Series? Because it's hard to do. It's like
right, yeah,
so many.
It's an incredible feat.
There's 30 teams every year trying to make it to the World Series, and only 2 make it. It's like, so I'm kind of, that's where I'm like thinking it's probably out of excitement. And does the guy like love domestic violence? Obviously not. I mean, what crazy person?
Yeah, I know. It's just like, see, that's a problem with women. And that's why no one takes women seriously.
I just that's why like this stuff kind of bothers me, because it's like, listen, like had the guy like actually like beat up his wife, it's like he shouldn't be playing baseball. Like if that really happened, it's like he shouldn't be playing baseball, all that stuff. I'm fine with that. But the thing is, like, nothing happened. It's like there was just nothing, and so you can't. So the guy like should be considered innocent at this point.
Well, I mean, if like, wait, was he charged? Like, was he formally charged?
It was kind of the same thing. It was the same thing, kind of like how it was with Chapman. Like, he was arrested, but like I don't think anything there. Didn't find any evidence of it or whatever.
Well, did it? Yeah, okay. So it didn't go beyond like the initial interview with police, right?
I think, yeah. I don't think there was any, as far as
So to everyone's knowledge, he didn't get indicted. He didn't have to stand before a judge.
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, no formal charges were brought against him.
Served no jail time.
Then there's no issue, and there's no issue. Like, the cops talked to him, and then what the cops heard, they were satisfied that that he didn't perform the crime that someone accused him of. And so so there was no need to take it to trial or to court. So he's literally innocent.
Yeah.
Of any wrongdoing. He's literally innocent of wrongdoing, and yet because of the tinge of his involvement with law enforcement, makes him either suspicious or outright guilty.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's absolutely, utterly insane to me. It just goes to. I mean, I don't know if this reporter knew like the full, or like knew the whole story, or if she's just there just to be kind of like the token woman to go on the field and interview people or whatever. But if she didn't know, then then she should have done her due diligence as a journalist and know about all of the different sides, even this kind of extra that's this pretty significant thing that happened to a player. They should know. They should know about this thing, and also commonsensically, they should know that the owner or manager or whatever is not endorsing domestic violence.
Yeah, and it's like, and the thing is, like, in the scene in like the locker rooms, especially come playoff time, is trust me, everyone's amped up. We just won the American League Championship. You know, they got the whole locker room like covered in plastic tarp.
Right. For
they're spraying champagne and
beer
and
show.
They're celebrating it. Plus it's a guys' clubhouse too. And yes, of course, reporters are welcome there, but it's even people say like crazy things, and they're having a good old time. It's
right, like in the heat of the moment. If you're just coming in from a victory, then of course you're amped, and you're ready to kind of participate in the tradition of dousing your teammates in victory, with like champagne and beer or whatever. It's just like it's like. Get ready for an unfiltered view of something.
Yeah, and it's but yeah, it's just, and then I heard something else too. Like after, so they fired him, right? And then after this, like there was some like article like because one of the Yankees radio announcers, she's a woman, Susan Waldman, and it's like they were talking about like Susan Waldman hasn't watched a game of the World Series since the Astros are in. It's like, well, first of all, who gives a shit? Because she is an announcer for the Yankees. Her team lost. I don't give a shit that she's she's watching World Series games or not. Why is this like a story? It's not. And she's a great announcer. I really like the Yankees radio broadcast team. Like they're really good. But I honestly don't give a shit about like her not watching World Series games. The Yankees aren't in it, so who gives a damn?
I know, like if her job is exclusively to cover the Yankees, then and then who cares if she doesn't watch the World Series, especially if the Yankees aren't in it.
Yeah, it's the same thing where it's like back in like when like the Dodgers announcers, like, oh, they haven't watched a game since they lost to the Nationals. Like, okay, fine, I don't care. Like the Dodgers aren't in the playoffs anymore.
It's like, so their job is to commentate, and broadcast during when the Dodgers play. It's like, yes, right. It's like, and the Dodgers are not in the World Series, correct?
But yeah, I the reason that
then therefore why do they have to make commentary about a team that they're not contractually or otherwise obligated to cover?
Right, and well, here, and what it was just meant to like it's look at this woman that's like kind of at the top of her field in sports. She's not watching the World Series, like kind of like, as like I don't know, it's like supposed to be some sort of protest against the baseball and the Houston Astros or whatever. It's really fucking stupid.
Whatever.
But honestly, I'm like, who gives a shit? It's like,
yeah, if I had it my way, women would have nothing to do with sports.
Yeah, they at least don't belong in the damn, like, I don't think they really belong in the locker room, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean shoot, are we trying to avert? Are we trying to reduce the likelihoods of of Me Too events?
Well, here's the other thing too: is like, no one ever, I don't think anyone talks about this, and like with women's sports, are there male like reporters that are going into the female locker room?
That's right. Yeah, like the WNBA, like after like victory, I don't know. After a win, are male reporters allowed to go into the female locker room and like interview them?
Yeah, I don't hear about that. I don't think there'd be a riot if that happened.
Yeah.
And I to be honest, there are.
I mean, nowadays, all a guy has to do is merely identify as a woman, and they can't say boo.
True, but it's still the same thing. You don't hear about that story. Like, I think there would be like some like, oh, how dare they come into our locker room?
Right. Yeah, it's the constant story of how women are allowed to. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. women are allowed to invade men's spaces, but men aren't allowed to invade women's spaces. I mean,
Pretty much.
yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah,
trying to.
I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like equality to me.
No, it's. I'm telling you, it's about dominance, not equality. Equality happened a long time ago,
Right.
and because you, like I said, with progressives, you can't stop progressing. You just, it's like, oh
I know.
well,
It's
no,
like, yeah.
you become insatiable. Like nothing
Right.
can.
Right. It's in their name.
Nothing,
It's like,
yeah,
progressive to progress. Like, it's not just, you get to a point and you're like, okay, we're good, no more. We don't have to go. We don't have to go anymore. It's like, no. It's like you have to keep going.
yeah. So that's what was going on with the Houston Astros. That's I thought was kind of bullshit. And then on the flip side, the Nationals fans and Washington D.C. as a whole, I felt acted very very shamefully. It's like, listen, you don't have to necessarily like a president or whatever. I'm pretty sure back in like 2001 when President Bush was he went to the first, I think it was to the World Series when the Yankees made it, and that was just after like the September 11th attacks and all that stuff. A ton of people didn't like President Bush, but you know what? Like they were like, it's kind of an exciting thing for a president to show up to a baseball game, and like that was a big moment, I think, for not just baseball but like the nation to heal. And recently we as a nation, we kind of had another big win with the kind of getting rid of the kind of the last of the ISIS leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, and put some salt to the ground to that group so that they don't come back.
Right.
And so so President Trump goes to Game 5 of the World Series, which is in Washington D.C., and there at least should be some, at least some sort of applause, or at best nothing. I mean, it's like but they're booing him, and after like this news came out, they're booing him. They're all of them are shouting, lock him up and all this stuff. And honestly, I felt, like I said, I'm not here to like say like you say what you will about President Trump, but like I don't think he deserved that kind of treatment.
Well, if nothing else, like someone who holds the office of president doesn't deserve that.
No.
The man notwithstanding, someone who has or is currently inhabiting the office of president doesn't deserve that kind of perception. And I don't care, regardless of party either. It's funny because this is the literal, the literal cancer analogy. Back in it was what is Trump could cure cancer and people would still boo him.
Oh, they would talk about how like cancer's actually done a lot of good, and it's like, what?
Right, population control, and it's like, what?
Or if you had or if he came out as pro puppy, people would start kicking puppies.
No, but that is literally that example. Those two examples. Because Trump, he gave the order to take out Baghdadi and his one of his lieutenants, and people are and like the obituary in the Washington Post, it changed from terrorist leader taken out in raid to austere Islamic scholar commits suicide, and it's just like, go fuck yourselves.
Did you see some of the parodies of the
Oh yeah. There was there was the Hitlers, the Stalins. My favorite one was, of course, the Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
It's like austere Sith scholar.
Jeez, it's just. I mean, this is. I just felt like they're kind of both teams like the part of me was thinking like what now I was already kind of like rooting for Houston in a way because I didn't want the Nationals to win because they beat my team, but now it just gives me extra fodder. It's like for all the if I had to choose like I felt like Houston did actually if both teams could lose at this point I'd be fine with it, but it's. Someone has to be a World Series winner.
But it'd just be all the more satisfying if the Nationals lost.
Yeah, I'd be alright with that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's why I titled it the way it is. For this particular segment, America's Pastime with a question mark. It's like what is it really? Is it baseball or is it Trump bashing?
Yeah, it's just I don't know, shameful events on both teams' parts. Yeah, I just it is what it is, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like, and again, this, there's constantly comparison because that's just there is because when what is it when Obama took out Osama. People are ready to throw him a ticker tape parade. They're ready to, vote. They're ready to vote him in for a third term.
I can remember exactly when that happened. I was at a Dodger game that night, and the fucking stadium exploded in just cheers. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was at a wedding.
Yeah, you would have thought that we were in the World Series at that night. I mean, we were. It was just if the stadium went nuts, and it's like, and now like you have it's like where something also a really big deal is kind of taking out these bad guys, and there's something that should be say what you will celebrating a man's death. I don't know about that, but these were bad guys, and you think he'd at least get kind of the same treatment that Obama got,
or at least deferential treatment, where it's like, okay, he did a good thing. He eliminated ISIS leadership.
Yeah,
at least that. I'm not expecting I'm not expecting overnight converts. Trump's side, but deferential treatment at least. We could expect. That's the least we could be expecting. It's like, okay, it's like the president did took out the ISIS leadership. All right.